By the time my third blind date watched my CEO pull out the empty chair beside me, I had stopped believing in coincidence. Alina Prescott sat down, placed her phone face down on the table, and looked at the woman across from me. "Sorry I'm late." Claire Donnelly blinked. I stared at Alina. "You're not invited." "I know." That should have embarrassed a normal person. Alina was not a normal person. She was the 36-year-old CEO of Benton Mobility Systems, a St. Louis company that built powered access equipment for hospitals, airports, and public buildings. She had a reputation for being able to reject a $20 million contract without raising her voice. She also wore a midnight blue suit to a neighborhood restaurant like she was preparing to acquire the building. Claire looked between us. "I'm missing something." "So am I said. Alina picked up my water, noticed the lemon floating in it, and traded it for hers without asking. I hated lemon in water. She knew that. Claire noticed that too. "Excellent." "Alina," I said quietly, "why are you here?" "Dinner." "You have dinner somewhere else." I canceled it. My pulse started doing something unhelpful. Claire gave a small laugh. "You two work together?" "I work for her." "Until March," Alina said. I turned. "We're not discussing that." Claire's expression sharpened. She was an occupational therapist at Hawthorne Rehabilitation Institute, where I had accepted a new job starting in 6 weeks. One of my closest friends had arranged the date after spending 2 years accusing me of treating romantic relationships like optional software updates. Claire had seemed promising. Smart. Funny. She had spent the first 20 minutes telling me about a patient who modified his own wheelchair cup holder with PVC pipe and duct tape because every commercial version annoyed him. Then Alina appeared. Claire rested her elbows lightly on the table. "Is she your ex?" "No," Alina said, not remotely. "Girlfriend?" "No." Again, Alina answered too. Claire looked amused now. "Wife?" I opened my mouth. Alina looked directly at me. Something in her expression changed. Not much. But I had worked around her for 5 years. I knew the tiny signs. The way she turned the silver ring on her right hand inward when nervous. The way her shoulders became perfectly still when she wanted something she had no authority to demand. Her ring turned once. Then she said, eventually. I nearly inhaled water. Claire leaned back. "Oh, Alina." She ignored me. Claire looked at her, then at me. "Okay, I'm going to ask a very simple question. Are you two in love?" "No," I said. Alina said nothing. That was worse. Claire smiled slowly. "Elliot, you seem nice. I feel a but coming. But I am not spending dinner between a man and the woman who looks like she is considering hostile action against my appetizer." Alina glanced at Claire's plate. "I have no opinion on the appetizer." That somehow confirms it. Claire stood. I stood too. "I'm sorry. Don't be." She picked up her coat. Then she lowered her voice. "For what it's worth, I think your CEO has been more honest tonight than you have." That one irritated me because I had no immediate argument. Claire left. I turned toward Alina. She remained seated. Calm. Elegant. Completely unreasonable. That was number 3. "I know. You ruined all 3 of them." Her expression did not change. Number 1 was a plant emergency. You called me personally when 2 other reliability leads were available. You were the best person. Number 2 was a charity dinner. Benton sponsored it. You changed your table assignment so you were sitting directly beside me. The original table was loud. You interrogated my date about whether she planned to stay in Missouri. She had mentioned Colorado. She mentioned skiing, which often occurs in Colorado. I stared. Alina turned her ring again. Then I said, "And tonight?" I came intentionally. Finally. No corporate excuse. No convenient emergency. No pretending. "Why?" She looked toward the door where Claire had disappeared. "Because I'm tired." "Of what?" "Watching you interview women for a position I already want." I laughed once because the sentence was too insane to process normally. "You're my CEO. For 6 more weeks. That is not the only problem." "No. You have never asked me on a date." "I know. You have never told me you're interested." "I know. You have spent 5 years acting like my personal life is something you learn accidentally from hallway conversations." Her jaw tightened. That part was deliberate. "Why?" She did not answer. I leaned closer. "Instead, you ruined 3 blind dates?" The first was not deliberately ruined. 1.5, then 2.5. That is not helping. The server approached, saw our faces, and made the excellent professional decision to disappear. I lowered my voice. Alina, I am leaving Benton because I want a life where my work does not belong to one company and my evenings do not belong to whoever has the biggest emergency. I know. I accepted Hawthorne because I want to build mobility equipment directly with therapists and patients. I know. I also decided I'm going to start dating seriously. Her eyes cooled at the last sentence. There it was. The Ice Queen cracking. I should have enjoyed it. Instead, I was annoyed. You do not get to sabotage that because you suddenly discovered jealousy. It is not sudden. Then what is it? Alina stood. For 1 second I thought she was leaving. Instead she moved around the table until she stood beside me, close enough that I could smell the clean cedar scent of her perfume. Her voice dropped. Stop looking. I stared at her. She turned the silver ring inward one more time, then said, I'm your wife. My heart forgot what it was doing. You are absolutely not. Technicality. That is a significant technicality. Alina picked up her coat. 6 weeks. What? You said I never asked. She looked me straight in the eye. Your employment ends in 6 weeks. After that, I am asking. For a date? Yes. That is not what you just said. No. She walked toward the door. I followed. Alina. She stopped. I expected another Yandere line. Instead, she said something much more dangerous. I have been trying not to want you for 4 years, Elliot. Then she left me standing in the restaurant with 3 ruined blind dates and a question much larger than jealousy. Why had a woman who apparently wanted me that badly spent 4 years pretending she didn't? Blind date number 1 had happened 12 days earlier. I had been halfway through dinner with a pediatric dentist named Rebecca when my phone rang. Alina. I almost ignored it. Then she called again. In 5 years, Alina had called me twice in a row exactly once before, when a powered hospital door system locked incorrectly during a certification test. I answered. Elliot. We have an actuator fault at Clayton Memorial. I straightened. Patient area? Rehabilitation wing. Any door locked? No. System failed open. Better. Still serious. Call Dennis. Already did. He's 40 minutes away. I'm 20. How do you know? I looked at Rebecca. She smiled patiently. I'm near Central West End. Silence. Then Alina asked, date? I should have lied. Yes. Another silence. Come anyway. I did. That was my choice. A safety problem outranked dinner. What bothered me later was discovering Dennis had actually been 12 minutes away. He told me himself. Prescott said she wanted you. I confronted Alina Monday morning. She did not apologize. You wrote the fault logic. So did Dennis. You understand the rehab door configuration better. By maybe 5%. 5% matters. That was my first date in 8 months. Her silver ring turned inward. I noticed it then without understanding why. I know. That should have been warning number 1. Blind date number 2 happened at the Blackwell Arts Foundation dinner. Benton had sponsored one table. I was not seated there. My date, Monica, worked in nonprofit fundraising and had invited me through a mutual friend. 20 minutes before dinner, the event coordinator appeared with new place cards. A donor had canceled. Tables had shifted. Suddenly Alina sat directly beside me. Monica lasted until dessert. Alina asked normal questions. That was the problem. Where did Monica work? Did she like St. Louis? Did she travel? Was she planning to relocate? Did she want children? I finally kicked Alina lightly under the table. She looked at me. What? You're interviewing her? No. Monica smiled. She definitely is. Later, I learned Alina had personally asked to move from the Benton sponsor table. Her explanation? My original table had a man who chewed loudly. I believed that for exactly 6 hours. After date number 3, I stopped pretending any of it was accidental. Monday morning, I walked into Alina's office at 8:15. Her assistant looked at me. She's in a call. I'll wait. The door opened 20 seconds later. Alina stood there. Come in. Apparently the call could survive. I closed the door. New rule. She returned to her desk. No blind date interference. I assumed. No emergency calls unless I am actually the best or only person available. Reasonable. No changing seats. That was one time. No appearing at restaurants. Her mouth moved slightly. I agreed. And no wife. She leaned back. That one is under review. Alina. Fine. I sat. You said 4 years. Yes. Why 4? She turned her ring. Once. What happened 4 years ago? You told me no. I stared. I did what? You don't remember? No. Alina looked almost offended by that. Lakefront Mobility Expo. Chicago. Memory arrived slowly. I had been a senior engineer then. Alina had been CEO for only 1 year. We were standing backstage after a disastrous product demo. A reporter had asked whether Alina ever dated employees. She said, never. Later, while we waited for a delayed flight, she asked what I thought about workplace relationships. I had laughed and said I would never date a CEO. I remembered now. You took that seriously? You said, there is no version of that where the employee gets treated normally afterward. That was not me rejecting you personally. I know. Then why? Because you were right. That stopped me. Alina stood and walked toward the window. My mother was chief operating officer of my father's company before they married. I knew Benton had originally belonged to her father. I did not know much about her mother. After they married, every promotion she made became his decision. Every disagreement became marital. Every time she won an argument, someone joked she had convinced him at home. Alina's voice stayed controlled. She was better at operations than he was. It did not matter. What happened? She left the company. And your parents? Stayed married. That surprised me. My mother loved him. She simply refused to spend another year proving she had a professional identity separate from being his wife. Alina turned back. So when you said you would never date a CEO, I agreed with you. Even though you wanted me? Especially because I wanted you. That explained distance. Not sabotage. I pointed at her. Then what changed? You resigned. There it was. He leaves. She breaks character. I spent 4 years believing the responsible thing was to leave you alone. And then I announced I was leaving Benton. Yes. And started going on blind dates. Her eyes hardened. Yes. You lost your mind. Moderately. I laughed. Then her expression became serious. There is something else. Of course. She opened a drawer and took out a personnel file. My name. I did not touch it. What? 2 years ago, Graham Lyle recommended making you executive director of reliability. I frowned. That role went to Patrick Sue. Yes. I was never interviewed. No. Why? Because the position reported directly to me. My stomach tightened. Did you block it? Yes. I stood. Alina immediately added, I recommended you for principal systems engineer instead. Same compensation band. Larger technical authority. No direct reporting relationship. I stared. My current job. The promotion I had considered one of the best things Benton ever gave me. You moved me away from you. Yes. Without telling me. Yes. Because you wanted me. Yes. Anger arrived slower than I expected. Not because the outcome had been bad. Because my career had been shaped by a relationship I did not know existed. You don't get to make those calls secretly. I know. Do you? Yes. She slid another document across the desk. A disclosure to Benton's board and HR. Dated the morning after my resignation. It stated that Alina had a personal interest in me and would recuse herself from my final compensation, exit package, intellectual property assignments, and any future Benton employment discussion. Before the blind dates. Before she told me anything. You filed this 6 weeks ago. Yes. Why? Because the moment you resigned, I no longer trusted myself to make decisions involving whether you stayed. That took some anger away. Not all. Why didn't you tell me? Because I still hoped I could behave normally. I looked at her. 3 blind dates. Yes. You failed. Completely. For the first time, the Ice Queen CEO actually looked embarrassed. I should not have found that attractive. I did. My decision to leave Benton had started with a 12-year-old girl named Talia Green. Talia used a powered wheelchair and attended an adaptive sports clinic where Benton tested a portable ramp system. The ramp worked exactly as specified. Talia hated it. It makes me wait for adults, she told me. That sentence followed me for months. The system was safe, reliable, commercially successful, and designed around the assumption that somebody else would always deploy it for the user. At Hawthorne Rehabilitation Institute, I would lead a small applied design group built around the opposite question. What can the person control themselves? That was why I was leaving. Not Alina. Not blind dates. Not office politics. Work. The first Wednesday after her confession, Hawthorne invited me to a patient design workshop. Clare was there. Of course she was. She spotted me and laughed. No CEO? Please don't summon her. I'm not saying the name 3 times. We work professionally. Easily. That mattered because Alina's restaurant performance had made Claire look like romantic competition when she was actually going to become one of my closest colleagues. At noon, Claire handed me a prototype walker grip. Your company makes this? Benton, yes. It rotates too easily. It's supposed to reduce wrist load. For some people, she demonstrated. I immediately saw the problem. The release collar required pinch strength. Exactly the type of issue that disappeared when engineering tested with able-bodied staff. I took notes. Claire watched. You really listen. That sounded surprised. A lot of engineers explain first. That sounds inefficient. She smiled. That afternoon, I sent the observation to Benton's clinical team. Not Alina. Proper channel. By Friday, they had opened a review. That was how it should work. Then my friend Marcus, different Marcus, unfortunately, the man had no relevance to corporate strategy and mostly existed to criticize my dating life, called. So, no, you didn't even let me ask. If this is about blind dates, no. Prescott told a woman she was your wife. I know. I was present. Marcus laughed for 15 seconds. I'm glad my pain helps. It does. Then he became serious. You still want another setup? I hesitated. Before the restaurant, yes. Now, I hated that Alina had changed the answer without earning the right. Yes. His laughter stopped. Really? I said I'm dating seriously. And your CEO? Is not my girlfriend. Yet. Marcus. I know somebody. I rubbed my forehead. Who? Attorney. 32. Loves baseball. No CEOs in immediate family. Very funny. I agreed. Date 4 would happen Saturday. I told nobody at Benton. Especially Alina. Friday evening, she appeared in the reliability lab carrying a failed door actuator. Thoughts? Put it on the bench. She did. I started opening the housing. Then noticed she had not left. What? Nothing. You are standing there very intensely. I stand normally. You do almost nothing normally. Her ring turned inward. Interesting. Then she asked, plans tomorrow? I smiled. No. Her eyes narrowed. You are lying. I have plans. I am not telling you what they are. Why? Because you ruined 3 dates. I promise not to interfere. And I am creating conditions where success is easier. She looked genuinely offended. I can control myself. That is not supported by data. Alina folded her arms. I returned to the actuator. 2 minutes passed. Then, is it a date? I looked up. No. She relaxed. I smiled. It is a blind date. Her face froze. I laughed so hard I had to put down the screwdriver. That was cruel, she said. You walked into a restaurant and called yourself my wife. Different. How? I was suffering. Now so am I. She stared for several seconds. Then turned toward the door. I stopped laughing. You're leaving? Yes. No interrogation? No. No mysterious Saturday emergency? No. No restaurant acquisition? I have never purchased a restaurant. Good clarification. Alina opened the door. Then stopped. I hope she is boring. I smiled. There she is. She walked away. Saturday's date went perfectly fine. Her name was Audrey. She was funny. Attractive. Interesting. We talked for 2 hours. No Alina. No Benton emergency. No mysterious table change. I should have felt relieved. Instead, walking home, I realized I had compared Audrey to Alina at least 12 times. Audrey laughed more. Alina listened harder. Audrey loved baseball. Alina considered baseball an inefficient use of throwing. Audrey asked what I wanted from a relationship. And the first person I pictured was the woman I was supposedly trying not to choose. That annoyed me. Monday morning, I found a paper bag on my desk. Inside was a muffin from the bakery downstairs. No note. Blueberry. The only flavor I liked. I carried it straight to Alina's office. She looked at the bag. What? You bought this? No. I stared. She stared back. Her assistant leaned around the door. I bought it. Miss Prescott asked me not to. I looked at Alina. The assistant disappeared wisely. You tried not to interfere with breakfast? I was practicing. I laughed. Then I set the muffin on her desk. Chair. I don't eat muffins. You do today. She broke it in half. For once, nothing exploded. Then her phone rang. She checked the screen. Board chair. Something changed. She answered. Yes? She listened. Her face turned cold. How did they get that? Another pause. No, do not respond. She looked at me, then away. When she ended the call, I asked, what happened? A photograph from the restaurant. My stomach tightened. What photograph? You and me. Who took it? Someone recognized me. Of course. What's the problem? The board received it with an anonymous complaint. I already knew the answer. Conflict of interest. Yes. I looked at her. You disclosed before the date. Yes. Then you're protected. Professionally, likely. Likely? Alina's jaw tightened. The complaint claims I have favored you for years. That was almost funny, considering the truth. But then she added, the board wants the full history. Our relationship had finally become public inside Benton. And suddenly the woman who had spent 4 years keeping distance had to prove the distance existed. The board review took 9 days. I hated every one of them. Not because I was afraid Alina had secretly promoted me. I already knew the major decisions. What I hated was watching my work become evidence in someone else's question about her integrity. Every promotion, every performance review, every major project. Outside counsel interviewed my managers. They interviewed me. They pulled compensation data. They pulled Alina's executive messages. I told her not to discuss the review with me. She agreed. That made the office strange. We still saw each other. But every personal conversation stopped the moment employment came up. One evening, I found her alone in the prototype hall at 7:30. She was sitting on a workbench. Alina never sat on workbenches. She had removed her silver ring and was rolling it across her knuckles. I stopped. You okay? Yes. Lie. She looked at me. My mother gave me this. The ring? Yes. I sat on the bench opposite her. She wore it during her years at Prescott Industrial, her father's old company. She turned it inward when she entered meetings. I looked at Alina's hand. That's why you do it. Yes. Why did she? The stone caught on drafting gloves. I laughed. All this time I thought it was some emotional tell. It became one. What does it mean now? Alina put the ring back on. Stone outward. When I'm calm, nothing. She turned it inward. When I want something I should not take. That was specific enough to make my pulse react. How often around me? Her eyes held mine. Frequently. I laughed softly. Then she became serious. The anonymous complaint included your executive director recommendation. I stopped. The one you blocked. Yes. It looks bad? It looks like I intervened. You did. Yes. To keep me from reporting directly to you, which can be interpreted as manipulating your role because of my feelings. Fair. What happens if the board decides that? I accept the finding. You could argue the compensation was equal. I will. You could point out I gained more technical authority. I will. But the decision should have been disclosed. There it was. No hiding behind good intentions. I respected that. 2 days later, outside counsel released its findings. No evidence Alina had favored me financially. No evidence she had given me better performance ratings. No evidence she assigned me projects for personal reasons. In fact, the review found something none of us expected. She had been harder on me. Not cruelly. Structurally. My promotion approvals took longer. My travel requests received additional review. Twice, Alina had declined to present awards to teams I was on because she worried being photographed with me too often would create rumors. I stared at the report. For years, I had assumed she barely noticed me outside technical meetings. The truth was almost the opposite. She had been managing how much she noticed. That was the first major reversal that actually changed how I saw our history. Then came the uncomfortable finding. The executive director decision had not violated policy, but outside counsel called it an undisclosed personal conflict that produced a material employment decision. Alina asked the board to place the finding permanently in her governance record. The board chair told her it was unnecessary. She insisted. I learned that from HR. When I confronted her, she was signing documents. You kept it. Yes. Why? Because I made the decision. You gave me equal pay. Yes. And arguably a better technical job. Yes. You still kept the finding. She looked up. Intent does not erase process. That sounded like the CEO. But it also sounded like growth. Then the board did something I hated. They recommended Alina avoid public personal contact with me until my employment ended. Not because the relationship was prohibited. Because of optics. Alina read the recommendation once. Then rejected it. I found out when she walked into the engineering cafeteria at noon and sat across from me. In front of everyone. Conversation around us dropped by half. I looked at her. What are you doing? Eating. You never eat here. The food is adequate. You hate the soup. I ordered salad. I lowered my voice. The board told you to avoid public contact. They recommended it. Alina. Her ring turned inward. I spent 4 years making you invisible in my personal life because I was afraid of what people would think. That is not exactly what happened. It is close enough. She looked around the room. I will recuse where authority matters. I will disclose where governance requires it. I will not pretend you are a stranger because someone finds that cleaner. That was her cost. Not her job. Not a dramatic resignation. Her armor. Her carefully constructed public distance. People were looking. Alina let them. Then she took my untouched apple. You don't eat those. I know. That one is mine. You are not eating it. This is theft. Report me. I laughed. The room slowly started breathing again. That afternoon, another surprise arrived. Hawthorne called. The Rehab Institute wanted me to lead a joint research proposal with Benton after I joined them. I almost said no immediately. Too messy. Then Claire explained. We need their powered door platform. Benton needs our patient lab. This partnership was discussed before you accepted the job. Who had Benton? Clinical research. Not Alina. That mattered. Still, I hesitated. If I accepted, leaving Benton would not cleanly remove Alina from my professional life. For the first time, I had to ask a harder question. Was I leaving to build my own career? Or was I also using the new job to create a safe distance from a woman I was afraid to choose? I accepted the joint research proposal. With conditions. Hawthorne would own the clinical protocol. Benton's technical team would report through its research director. Alina would have no project authority. I would not report to Benton in any form. Nobody objected. That should have made the decision easy. It didn't. The first planning session happened before my Benton departure because the grant deadline was close. Claire sat across from me. Benton's research director sat beside her. Alina did not attend. Good. We were halfway through the meeting when the research director said, Alina asked me to clarify that she will not participate in this project. I looked up. Why are you telling me? Because she said you would otherwise assume she was avoiding you personally. Claire slowly lowered her pen. I closed my eyes. Of course she did. Afterward, Claire caught me in the hallway. Can I say something? I fear you will. You like her. Yes. There was no reason to lie anymore. Claire looked almost relieved. Great. Because the blind date version of you was exhausting. That's harsh. You spent an hour explaining why you would never date a CEO before I asked. I had. That was embarrassing. Claire continued. You talk about her like she's a regulatory category. She was my CEO. Was? In 3 weeks. Claire smiled. There it is. What? You're counting too. I hated competent women. Apparently I had a type. That evening, I called Marcus. No more blind dates. He was silent for 2 seconds. Then yelled loudly enough that I moved the phone away. You lasted 4. This is not a victory. Prescott won. No one won. Did she buy the matchmaking service? No. Restaurant? No. Kidnap anyone? Also no. Disappointing. I hung up. The next day, I told Alina. She was in the test bay listening to a motor with a stethoscope. That was another strange habit. She claimed microphones filtered frequencies her ear could identify faster. I had mocked her for years until she diagnosed a failing bearing correctly from 10 feet away. No more blind dates, I said. She slowly lowered the stethoscope. Why? That is not the reaction you wanted? I want the reason. Because I don't want another one. Her ring turned inward. Because of me? Yes. The smallest smile appeared. I pointed at her. Do not look victorious. I am experiencing a private emotion. It is on your face. That seems unlikely. I stepped closer. We still wait until I leave. Her smile vanished. 3 weeks. Yes. I dislike this arrangement. I know. And after? We go on a date. 1? We start with 1. This is inefficient. Marriage on date 0 was your plan. It remains available. I laughed. Then a technician called me over. The moment ended. That night, Benton's emergency systems group discovered a problem with a powered evacuation door we had installed at a children's hospital. The fault was rare. During a backup power transition, 2 sensors could disagree about door position and cause a 10-second delay before manual release. 10 seconds was too long. I was called in. Correctly. So were 3 other engineers. Alina arrived 20 minutes later. She did not ask me to leave because we were involved. The engineering manager did. That mattered. We worked until 3 in the morning. At 2:12, a junior engineer named Luis found the timing sequence that triggered the fault. He looked terrified to say it, because the sequence had been in his own test plan. He thought he had missed something. I pulled up his report. You didn't miss it. He stared. The simulator never modeled the backup relay delay. That's my test. It's our system. Alina stood behind us, silent. I looked at the team. No individual blame. We fixed the simulator, then the door. Luis exhaled. We solved the software sequence at 2:47. No hospital incident. No patient harm. Just a defect caught before it became one. When everyone started packing, Alina remained near the door. I looked at her. What? That. What? She nodded toward Luis. You did not protect him from the mistake. No. You protected him from being made smaller by it. I understood what she meant. Is this another reason you like me? Yes. Your standards are strange. My standards are excellent. I smiled. Then she became quieter. That was when I knew for certain. When? 3 years ago. Another junior engineer. Another failed test. I remembered. A woman named Keisha had entered the wrong torque limit during a factory trial. I took responsibility because I had approved the test plan. Alina had watched me explain the failure to a furious client without once using Keisha's name. You knew then? I knew I wanted you in every difficult room. Her gaze stayed on mine. And eventually in the rooms that were not difficult too. That landed. I stepped toward her. We were alone now. 3 weeks suddenly felt absurd. Alina's eyes dropped briefly to my mouth. Then she stepped back. I laughed. What? You stopped. You made a rule. You hate the rule. Yes. Still followed it. Her ring turned outward. Unfortunately, that restraint did more for me than ruining 3 blind dates ever could. 2 weeks before I left Benton, Colin, not Colin, my story had no Colin, the man who mattered now was Graham Sutter, Benton's chief commercial officer, made the mistake of assuming Alina's feelings had weakened her judgment. Graham had never interfered with my blind dates. He barely knew they existed. His problem was Hawthorne. The joint research proposal gave Hawthorne access to Benton's early prototypes under controlled testing terms. Graham disliked that. Hawthorne gets too much influence, he told the executive review group. They'll turn every edge case into a redesign. I was attending because I had written part of the original platform architecture. I said, that is what clinical testing is for. Graham smiled. You're already thinking like them. I start there in 12 days. Exactly. The room tightened. Then he looked at Alina. We need to decide whether Elliot should still be in these reviews. Reasonable question. Bad implication. Alina did not answer. The engineering vice president did. He is still principal reliability engineer until his final day. Graham shrugged. And then he becomes the partner reviewing our product. That is a conflict. I agreed. After my last day, I should not have internal access. Graham looked slightly disappointed that I didn't fight. Then he said, maybe Hawthorne should assign another lead. There it was. I looked at him. That decision belongs to Hawthorne. Benton can refuse the partnership. Yes. Alina finally spoke. Correct. Everyone looked toward her. Graham seemed pleased. Then Alina continued, which is why I am recused from the partnership vote. His expression changed. The board governance chair would decide. Not her. Graham looked at me. So your future employer negotiates with Benton while you're dating Benton's CEO. We are not dating yet. That sounded ridiculous even to me. Several people looked down. Alina's face became glacial. But she did not defend me. I did not need her to. I leaned forward. That is why the governance structure matters. Graham said, optics still matter. They do. I nodded. So document them. He stopped. If Hawthorne thinks I'm conflicted, they replace me. If Benton's independent reviewers think the partnership is compromised, they reject it. But you don't get to turn a disclosed relationship into proof that neither of us can behave professionally. The room went quiet. Alina did not smile. Her eyes did. The partnership passed independent review 3 days later. Not because Alina supported it. Because clinical leadership, legal, and the governance chair supported it. I would lead Hawthorne's side after my move. Benton's research director would lead theirs. Clean. Then came the second major reversal. I learned Alina had originally planned to make me director of clinical reliability 2 years earlier. Not executive director. A different role entirely. My old manager, Roger Bellamy, told me during my transition lunch. Prescott designed half the job around what you were already doing. I stared. What? She killed it before finance review. Why? Roger looked confused. I assumed because budget was tight. I knew better. That afternoon, I went to Alina. Clinical reliability. Her face went still. Roger told you. You created a department. Drafted. For me. Yes. And killed it. Yes. Why? She closed her laptop. Because it reported to the CEO. I laughed without humor. Again. Yes. You could have made it report somewhere else. I know. Why didn't you? Alina took a long breath. Because that was the point when I realized I was redesigning the company to keep you close. That shut me up. She stood. I told myself Benton needed a clinical reliability function. It did. Then why kill it? Because every version I drew had you in the center. Her ring turned inward. I could not tell whether I was solving an organizational problem or building a reason you would never leave my orbit. That was not lack of recognition. It was the opposite. She saw my values so clearly she nearly reorganized the company around it, then stopped herself because her motive was no longer clean. You never told me. No. I thought you didn't see what I was trying to become. Her expression broke. Just slightly. I saw it before you did. That hurt. Good hurt. The kind that rearranged the past. I looked at her. Why didn't you tell me after I resigned? Because then it would sound like a counteroffer. She was right. I hated that. So you let me leave believing Hawthorne was the first place that saw that version of me. No. Her voice softened. I let you leave because Hawthorne was the first place that offered it without wanting anything else from you. That was the second major reversal. The Ice Queen had not failed to value me. She had valued me enough to refuse using that value as a leash. Then she ruined 3 blind dates because apparently professional restraint and romantic restraint were very different muscles. I laughed. Alina frowned. What? You are objectively ridiculous. I know. You can kill your own department plan because you're worried about conflict, but you cannot survive me eating pasta with another woman. Her eyes narrowed. Those are different categories. Apparently. I stepped closer. 12 days. 9. I checked the date. She was right. You're counting. Yes. Yandere. You keep using that word. It fits. Is it an insult? Not today. Her expression softened. For the first time, I was counting too. My last day at Benton began with an emergency and ended with Alina refusing to save me from it. The emergency was not dangerous. Just expensive. A batch of powered door modules had failed final vibration testing at our Missouri plant. 30 units. Shipment due Monday. My old instinct was to stay until the problem was solved. At noon, my manager reminded me my access expired at 5. We can extend you through the weekend. I almost said yes. Then stopped. That was exactly the habit I was leaving behind. Always available. Always the person who stayed because I knew how. I spent 3 hours documenting the failure, identifying the likely connector issue, and handing it to Luis and the remaining reliability team. At 4:15, Luis said, "What if we can't solve it?" "You will. That is not engineering." "Fine. You'll test hypotheses until one survives." He laughed nervously. I handed him my notebook. "You know the system. You know it better." For another 45 minutes. That was the point. At 4:50, Alina entered the lab. Everyone noticed. She did not walk to me. She walked to Luis. "Status?" He explained. She asked 2 questions. Then nodded. No glance asking me to stay. No executive exception. At 5, my badge expired. The test was still unresolved. I packed my final laptop charger. Luis looked over. "You're really leaving?" "Yes." Alina stood 10 feet away. Her face revealed nothing. That took effort. I could see it. My manager shook my hand. Then the rest of the team. No giant farewell. We had done that at lunch. I picked up my box. Alina finally approached. "Need help?" "I can carry a cardboard box." "I know." "You want to carry it?" "Yes." I handed it over. The CEO of Benton Mobility Systems carried my desk junk through the lobby. Inside were 2 coffee mugs, 3 notebooks, a photo of my brother, a cracked gear I kept because it had taught me something, and an absurd number of pins. People stared. Alina ignored them. At the front doors, she stopped. Snow was falling lightly outside. "You left them with an unresolved vibration failure." "Yes." "How do you feel?" "Bad." "Going back?" "No." Her eyes softened. Good. What if they fail? They learn. You really have changed. I had help. She handed me the box, then glanced at the clock above reception. 5:07. 7 minutes. I laughed. You are terrifying. Your employment ended 7 minutes ago. Yes. Good. She took one step closer. Elliot Fraser, would you have dinner with me? There it was. Asked properly. No stolen seat. No ruined date. No wife claim. Yes. Her entire face changed. Not much. Enough. Tonight? Yes. 7? Yes. I made 2 reservations. I stared. Why 2? In case you disliked the first restaurant. You planned backup dating infrastructure. I am nervous. That admission made me smile more than anything else she could have said. Then my phone rang. Luis. I answered. Tell me you found it. We found it. I smiled. What? Connector retainer. Supplier changed polymer hardness. Vibration walks it loose. Exactly what we suspected. Good. We're testing the replacement. You don't need me. I know. Those words mattered. I ended the call. Alina watched. Company survived 8 minutes. Barely. Go to dinner. I intend to. Our first date was terrible for the first 20 minutes. We had spent 5 years speaking through work. Without work, we suddenly became 2 people trying to decide whether appetizers were interesting. Then I asked about her mother's ring. That fixed it. She told me her mother had died 3 years earlier. Cancer. Slow enough to say goodbye. Her mother had made Alina promise one thing. Never confuse being indispensable with being loved. I sat back. That seems relevant. Painfully. Did you follow it? At work, eventually. With me? No. Honest. Then she said, you were the one person whose opinion I could not make myself stop caring about. I looked at her. What did I do? You disagreed. That cannot be rare. It is rarer than you think. She smiled faintly. Your first year, I wanted to push a hospital access system into production 2 months early. I remember. You told me no. I had data. You also told me if I wanted someone to agree with me, I should hire a mirror. I winced. I said that to the CEO. Yes. Why was I not fired? I was furious. That does not answer me. I went home and realized I had built an executive team that was beginning to manage my reactions instead of the company. She looked down at her ring. You were the first person who made me feel safer by refusing me. That was why. Not because I worshipped her. Because I didn't. I respected her enough to say no. By dessert, the date was no longer terrible. At 10, I walked her to her car. She turned. Second date? Yes. When? Saturday. She took out her phone. No calendar invite. Her hand stopped. I smiled. Ask me Friday. That is inefficient. Dating. She sighed. Then stepped closer. Can I kiss you? That question mattered too. Yes. She did. No company watching. No blind date escaping. No wife line. Just Alina kissing me because she asked and I said yes. When we separated, she whispered, still think I ruined those dates? Yes. Good. I laughed. The Ice Queen was not sorry enough. My first month at Hawthorne changed the way I thought about my career. At Benton, I had been good at finding why systems failed. At Hawthorne, I spent more time asking why systems were designed that way in the first place. Clare and I led a project on powered restroom doors for users with limited hand control. The joint Benton partnership started 2 weeks later. Clean governance. Separate teams. Alina never joined a technical meeting. Not once. She also never pretended we were strangers. That balance mattered. We dated. Properly. Saturday breakfast. Wednesday evening walks when neither of us had late meetings. One disastrous attempt at mini golf where Alina accused the course designer of deliberate geometric cruelty. She met my brother. I met her aunt. She never ruined another blind date because there were no more blind dates to ruin. 3 months later, Benton held its annual product forum. Hawthorne was invited to present our first joint clinical findings. I stood on stage with Clare and Luis. Not Alina. We showed how the original power door control assumed too much pinch strength and how the new palm access interface performed across 47 users with different mobility profiles. When the presentation ended, the moderator asked who had originated the revised control concept. Clare pointed toward me. Elliot identified the design gap. I shook my head. And Luis built the final mechanism. Luis looked startled. I gestured for him to stand. He did. Applause followed. From the front row, Alina watched us. No attempt to make the moment about her. That was another reason I loved her. Yes, loved. I had not told her yet. Mostly because watching the most controlled woman I knew wait for something was perversely entertaining. After the forum, Graham Sutter approached me, the commercial officer who had questioned whether Hawthorne should let me lead the partnership. He looked at the new interface displayed behind us. I was wrong. I raised an eyebrow. About? Clinical review. That was unexpected. He nodded toward the device. We would have treated the original control as a training issue. I know. You would have fought us. Yes. You usually did. He smiled slightly. I thought you were difficult. I am. I think I underestimated what you were protecting. There it was. The third major reversal was quieter than the others. The people who had viewed my resistance as stubbornness were beginning to understand that my value was not simply technical. I protected the user from the organization's convenience. Graham looked toward Alina. She saw that before most of us. I followed his gaze. You knew? She kept asking why your objections appeared in final review after everyone else had already agreed. That was new. What do you mean? Graham laughed. You never noticed she changed the review format? I frowned. When? 3 years ago. He explained. Benton used to let executives present consolidated project summaries. Then Alina changed major safety reviews so the engineer raising the highest risk objection had to present it personally. I had assumed legal required it. No. Graham shook his head. Prescott did. Because of me. Not to promote me. To make sure the system could not erase disagreement before it reached the room. I found Alina afterward in an empty side corridor. You changed the review process because of me. She stopped. Graham talks too much. Why didn't you tell me? It was a good policy. That is not an answer. Her ring turned inward, then back out. You complained that every technical concern became smaller as it moved upward. I remember. You were right. So you changed it. Yes. You've been doing things like this for years. Occasionally. And letting me think you barely noticed. That was the plan. I stared at her. You are the worst Yandere in history. I still do not know what that means. I laughed. Then her face softened. Elliot? Yeah? Why are you looking at me like that? Because I finally understood the whole picture. Alina had not spent 4 years secretly building my career. She had spent 4 years changing systems when my arguments revealed they were wrong, while carefully refusing to make me the beneficiary of her feelings. Then I resigned. I started dating. And all that restraint collapsed in the least dignified area possible. 3 blind dates. A stolen seat. 1 completely fictional marriage. I stepped closer. I love you. Alina stopped moving. Completely. I had seen her face during lawsuits, product failures, layoffs, and 1 hospital recall. Nothing had ever erased her expression like those 3 words. What? You heard me. Say it again. I smiled. No. Her eyes narrowed. You cannot do that. I absolutely can. Elliot. I leaned closer. Stop looking. Her breath caught. I'm your husband. For 1 second she stared. Then she laughed. A real laugh. Bright enough that 2 people passing at the end of the hallway turned to look. Alina grabbed my tie and pulled me into a kiss. Public corridor. Product forum. Executives 20 feet away. The Ice Queen did not care. When she let me go, she was still smiling. Boyfriend, I said. Husband. Legally false. Future tense. You really never gave that up. No. Then someone behind us cleared their throat. Clare. She held 2 folders and looked deeply entertained. I need Elliot for the clinical debrief. Alina's hand remained on my tie. I looked at her. This was the old test. Work. Control. Jealousy. Clare. Alina released me. Go. Simple. No sulking. No invented executive meeting. No sabotage. I smiled. Dinner? 7. Ask me later. Her eyes narrowed. I walked away laughing. That evening, I reached the restaurant first. Different restaurant. Different table. No blind date. At 6:58, Alina walked in wearing a black dress and carrying a small white envelope. I became suspicious immediately. What is that? Nothing alarming. That sentence is alarming. She sat, then pushed the envelope toward me. Inside were 3 restaurant gift certificates. I recognized the names. Blind date 1. Blind date 2. Blind date 3. I looked up. What is this? Reparations. I laughed. You bought gift cards? Yes. For dates you ruined? Yes. What am I supposed to do with them? Take me. I stared. Her expression remained perfectly serious. You sabotaged my dating life so aggressively that now you want the replacement dates. Correct. That is insane. Yes. I shook my head, then noticed writing on the back of the third certificate. Alina's handwriting. No emergencies. No table changes. No uninvited CEO. Underneath. Unless requested. I laughed again. What about wife? She turned her silver ring inward. Nervous. For the first time, I understood what that motion meant completely. Wanting something she knew she could not simply take. I reached across the table and turned the ring outward for her. Girlfriend. Her eyebrows lifted. For now. The tension left her shoulders. Acceptable. Barely? Extremely. The server approached. Alina looked at me instead of the menu. What? You are still looking. At you. That is allowed. I smiled. 5 years ago, Alina Prescott had been the coldest person in every room I entered. 4 years ago, she had decided wanting me was a problem she could solve by keeping her distance. 6 weeks before I left Benton, I started building a life that did not include her. That was when she finally broke. She ruined 3 blind dates, stole my water, interrogated strangers, called herself my wife before we had even kissed. But the reason I chose her had nothing to do with how fiercely she wanted me. It was that, when it mattered, she learned wanting me did not give her the right to decide for me. She let me leave. She let my new work belong to me. She let me say no. And once I was free to choose without owing her anything, the choice became surprisingly easy. Alina reached across the table and took my hand. No one from Benton was watching. No board recommendation. No blind date to scare away. Just us. She squeezed my fingers. Second date Saturday? This is our 7th. I am replacing the ruined ones. Your accounting is criminal. Saturday? I smiled. Yes. The Ice Queen nodded once, satisfied. Then, under the table where nobody else could see, she hooked her ankle around mine like she was making absolutely sure I was not going anywhere. I looked at her. Possessive. Yes. Still working on it? No. I laughed. And this time, I had no intention of looking for anyone else. That's all for today. Remember to subscribe and support us.